Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I'm going to be looking at Fantasy Flight Games versus GW and why I think that's good for the consumer. So Games Workshop versus Fantasy Flight Games. They used to be friends until like a top 10 anime betrayal. Well, okay, it wasn't really a top 10 anime betrayal. I only know that as a meme. Not even sure where that's from. But basically, I'll get on to why I think it's like a good thing right now, but we'll have a little bit of, I don't want to say a history lesson because I don't really know too much, but we'll rewind the years a little bit. Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight Games, for those of you who didn't know, used to have a business relationship. So in 2008, Fantasy Flight Games partnered with Games Workshop to make like board games, role-playing games, card games, all in the Warhammer universes, basically. I know that I used to play Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, for example, and you know, FFG made that. That basically lasted up until the 9th of September in 2016, so only last year. Now, obviously, we don't 100% know why that relationship ended. A little bit of me likes to think it's because Fantasy Flight Games outgrew the GW relationship. They said, no, we don't need this anymore. And it could be that Games Workshop said, oh, the competition's too great right now, so we don't want to help FFG by giving them our license, so it's over. Now, I think maybe FFG were like, okay, well, we're going to make Rune Wars and we're going to make Legion. We probably don't want to be helping the IP of another miniature war game, like 40k or something like that, so we'll just call that the kind of thing. And but the most important event was probably in 2011 in August when FFG purchased the license for Star Wars to make, you know, card games, miniature games, role-playing games. And obviously FFG have had quite a lot of popular games, but I think we can all agree that like the most popular game is probably X-Wing. It's basically like catapulted FFG right up there. It's overtaken 40k in terms of sales. So, you know, they've become a massive player in the market off the Star Wars license and from X-Wing. It's interesting to me that Games Workshop have actually replaced FFG with WizKids. That was announced, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So maybe the relationship wasn't terminated by GW because they still wanted a partner to do that. It was perhaps terminated by FFG, which makes me think, you know, they outgrew it and they wanted to make their own miniature war game kind of thing. Why do I think this specific relationship, GW versus FFG, why is that a big enough one to make this video? Why not Games Workshop versus Privateer Press or, you know, whatever it is? Well, the reality is that FFG are a company now that have the financial backing from like the success of all the previous games. And, you know, now with Legion, they're properly deciding to compete against GW, like against 40k. It's the battle of the titans. FFG are a big enough company with a big enough brand to really have a go at GW and 40k. Now, people might say, oh, but what about Rune Wars? That was them having a go at fantasy. Yeah, maybe, but without the brand of Star Wars, you know, Rune Wars is basically an also-ran, whereas Legion is going to be a photo finish. It's going to be like, you know, they're much closer. Now, I don't mean to put the cart before the horse to extend the equine metaphor. We obviously don't know what's going to happen fully, but I think we're looking at a great future for both the consumer and for miniature wargaming as a whole. I think this is going to, I actually think the next like few years is where miniature wargaming is going to catapult straight up into like, not full public consciousness, but, you know, a little bit below like gaming, I think. I mean, I'd say it's quite a lot back now, but I just think I think this specific rivalry might help catapult the whole industry up towards the stratosphere or the moon, if you're a Bitcoin lover. So what might actually happen because of this relationship? I've got my notes, hence why I'm looking down. I'm going to scroll down. What might actually happen? Well, a monopoly is always bad, apart from the game of Monopoly, which is definitely bad. But no, Monopolies generally are frowned upon, with good reason. You can dominate industries, you can try and throw your weight around, and nobody really likes that. Look at Disney. Disney in two ways. One, they tried to ban a newspaper. Thankfully, like, that industry like kicked up a fuss. Disney are also trying to pressure, like, they're asking for more profits from Star Wars theaters showing Star Wars, the new Star Wars film. They're a monopoly. They can sort of do what they want. I say they're not. It's not a monopoly, but they're like so strong that they can strong arm businesses to get what they want. And I sort of feel like that's what GW maybe once was, maybe not as strong recently, but they've definitely been in quite a strong position. You know, they've got shops on the high street and all that kind of thing. So the main examples of this, probably pricing. I think if you ask a lot of people what they think of GW's prices, they'll say quite expensive, and it is. It is fairly expensive. The quality of the models also very good though. However, let's look at Legion now. You can buy 7 troopers for $25. You can buy 10 Space Marines for $50. So I mean, for $50 in FFG world, you get 14 troops. Just on a very basic level, people go, cheaper to play Star Wars Legion than it is 40k. Doesn't matter how true that is, but like they're trying to just have the little edge to get people to think FFG is cheaper than Games Workshop. The quality of the models won't matter for some people. For obviously purist hobbyists, that kind of thing, it's a big element of it that the quality of the models is good. But if the quality of the models were that important, you could buy Forge World. And I think what you might see is Games Workshop make like sort of 2-tiered version of models. They already sort of are with your cut together poses, but you might be able to actually build a whole army out of that. You also might see Games Workshop just declunk the rules a little bit, make it simpler, make it more noob friendly. Not really related to price, it was just something that came into my head there. And I do wonder if Games Workshop would have got rid of fantasy if they thought their reputation was going to take such a big hit that another company could, completely devour them. I don't think they would have got rid of fantasy in the old days. I mean, it's a little bit tricky because fantasy is not the main game, but it sort of just shows they could sort of do what they want and not really worry about the repercussions. Also, Games Workshop might have to stop a little bit of the... It's always funny that sometimes the most powerful units are the most expensive units or the newish units that they want to sell. Power should not really equal a financial cost. It should be fairly flat across the board. And I think competition will keep both of the companies honest in that regard. It also might mean that Fantasy Flight Games might have to increase their quality because GW is so above them in terms of quality regardless of price. So it just pushes people together. When you when you have a rivalry, it makes you both get better. I mean, it could make you both get worse, but I think in this case, you're both going to get better. We might see some more consumer-driven products. So it's not just about 40k versus Legion. We might see, as I'm going to say Legion, even though this doesn't make sense, but Legion's pricing model is possibly more fair than, say, X-Wings. And you might see that, continue, like GW are doing Shadespire to try and sort of compete with probably like Destiny or X-Wing, that kind of scene and that kind of space. But the pricing on that seems really reasonable, quite cheap. It's so they can compete fairly, but you'll see these consumer-driven products like, oh, well, maybe we actually want some cheap trees. Do you know what I mean? Those kind of things might come out from having to fight with each other. Also, I think the rules and the scene might end up changing. So GW have always been sort of more about the hobby. The hobby's been the big thing. And FFG have always had like here is the complete rule set, and we'll do our quick FFQs and all that kind of thing. FFG we helping tournaments with the packs and that, like Magic the Gathering does. FFG was doing that, and now GW are starting to do that with Shadespire. So they're helping the competitive scene, and I think GW were more the hobby side, but more recently it seems like they're actually trying to make a balanced rule set. So hopefully between the two, FFG and GW will both have this like friendly competitive scene, and once you've got that, you've got the world. But it really does open it up. You're friendly, noobs can play, your competitive people who want to take it up a level can play. The combination of that is exquisite. You might get some things like better customer services. Now, from what I've heard, both FFG and GW are actually quite good at this, but I think it's worth noting that it'll keep them honest, and you might even see even better. For example, it's not like customer services, you could almost say it's like better information spreading. So FFG will gradually do press releases, and it definitely seems GW started doing that with 40k with the Warhammer community site. So both of them are releasing information to try and keep the hype and keep the interest. And you know, we should see that just get better, hopefully. I think also this will increase the popularity of both games. It's weird to think, but I think a rivalry is a better story or narrative for people to understand than just GW's success. They make these geeky games, play them. GW, they make 40k, but there's also a Star Wars version. Which one's better? I feel like it might get people like more interested, and I think it's, as I said, I think it's going to push the whole industry up a little bit. Speaking of pushing stuff, I think technology might get better. We've already seen FFG have acquired, or they're making like a digital company basically, and Games Workshop have been licensing the franchises out for quite a while. But I feel like we might see, you know, unbelievable jumps in technology, say in the next 20 years, whether that's 3D printing, augmented reality, whatever the hell it is. Neither of them are going to want to be left behind, so they're both going to keep pushing it as forward as much as they can, basically. Now, there are a few downsides to the competition. I don't necessarily think there's many, but I can think of one, and I've sort of already experienced it. Fanboys. I've already had people like, you know, come into me and be like, "Oh, GW are great," or "You hate GW," or "You're shilling for FFG." None of those things are actually true, but there's some like anger and vitriol that when you blindly follow one company over another, people will defend them without properly thinking through what you're saying or what the other companies are doing. Like, there'll be some people who hate GW. They'll be like, "They're very expensive and I hate them. I hate their customer service. I hate this, I hate that." And they won't listen to anything like any of the changes, that kind of thing. And that you see that with gaming, don't you? Sony versus Microsoft, like internet trolls and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that this industry and the hobby and the community are actually like more sensible than that and won't devolve into, you know, flinging mud at each other. But it's worth noting that you'll get certain fanboys. I'm very interested to hear or read what you think might come from this rivalry. Is there anything that you're looking forward to possibly sprouting from this not evil competition, but this interesting competition? Is there anything that you think will come from it? Yeah, I think I hope I've covered a lot of things there. I realise there's not. It's hard to put into words what might come from a rivalry without properly knowing what is going to come from the rivalry. It's an unknown. You know, it might be that GW buy FFG. I mean, I don't think they could afford that, but something so random like that could happen, and obviously I can't predict that. But, you know, there's still a lot of interesting things, and I think overall it's going to be really good for just a casual or the hobbyists, the hobby as a whole. Let me know, as I said, what you want to see spring from the rivalry, any interesting games, maybe like a GW Destiny or whatever the hell it is. Other than that, of course, do like, subscribe, and have a most beautiful day. Goodbye, guys. Bye.